When it comes to domestic competitions, I think most fans agree that MLS Cup is the pinnacle of success for an MLS team. But what comes after that is a bit divisive. Is it the Open Cup? Is it Leagues Cup? Or is it something else? Your answer to that question will probably influence how you feel about the latest news about the Quakes. My name is Kevin, and I'm joined by Luis. Together we're the Quakesaholics, and today we'll be discussing the perspective on the most recent news. The San Jose Earthquakes will be playing in the US Open Cup at the expense of not participating in the 2025 Leagues Cup. Luis, how are you doing, and what are your thoughts on this news?
First impressions are that it's probably not great, especially after last year, which was probably the highlight of our season altogether, was the run with Leagues Cup. Obviously, the thrashing of Necaxa. Big moments, Bobasi's header, seeing Kate Cowell again and the narrative surrounding that, playing such a big game at Levi Stadium. I think it's a tragedy, really, that Earthquakes aren't going to be able to participate in that next season. And especially, even when you also consider a lot of the heartbreaks and frustration that surrounds Open Cup for the Quakes, especially in the past 2 or 3 seasons. Yeah, definitely not great to hear.
Just in terms of like quality of games that we're going to see, I think this is a massive step down. Excitement levels are probably also turned down a couple notches, and there's a lot of financial implications about this, and overall I'm just disappointed about this. And yeah, so with our opinions kind of stated on how we feel, I do think it's worth being a little bit more objective about both competitions and why people might favor those. So Luis, what do you think is the argument for wanting to prioritize the Open Cup and the excitement for actually participating in this tournament?
For one, it's a very historical competition in American soccer. Because of that, obviously there's a certain level of legitimacy and reputation that Open Cup has. Even if it's not the most competitive tournament, it's still historical, and there's historical value in winning the competition because of that. And I also think that there's some sense of the Open Cup feeling sacred because it's historical, and it feels like the expansion of other competitions, or just the outright introduction of other competitions, is sort of like stepping on the toes of Open Cup. And it's very obvious that this expansion of competitions is motivated by money. And I think that that's just doesn't sit right with people, including myself. That kind of gives Open Cup a sense of, being something legitimate that other tournaments like Leagues Cup might not have right now.
And on the other side of the coin, if you prefer Leagues Cup, it's probably because in general you can say that there's a higher level of play. Most MLS teams will actually play their best players on a given match day, whereas Open Cup, at least in the early rounds, you see a lot more rotation. The matchups are also, in a sense, more exciting because you're going to see your team play against teams that you've never seen them play against. Like last year, we got to see us play against Chivas. We saw Necaxa. Whereas in Open Cup, at least in early rounds, it's like, okay, we're playing Sacramento again, we're playing Monterey Bay again, because it's all regionally based. And you can also make an argument that Leagues Cup attendance is generally higher, especially for the Quakes anyways. Like last year's Oakland game was pretty empty at PayPal Park, but then you compare that to like Necaxa, which was also a midweek game, had really good attendance. The game against Chivas, again, that was a record-setting crowd for Leagues Cup. It was something around like 44,000. And it is a money grab tournament, but that does also mean that the payout is a lot higher for teams that succeed in Leagues Cup. With all of that in mind, Luis, what is your take on which one of these you prefer, if you do have a preference, as a Quakes fan anyways?
I don't know. I think I prefer. Yeah, I think as a Quakes fan, which is definitely important in kind of forming my opinion, I like the Open Cup. So as a soccer fan generally, I do agree with the fact that there is historical value in the Open Cup, and I think that there is something about that should remain. And I also think, in the fairness of soccer in the United States generally, I do like the idea that you get a Bay City FC in there from time to time. I honestly do kind of like sometimes, especially going away to some of the smaller teams, because for them it's a big game, and there's a certain level of, it just feels different. And that's something that I do like, and I think maybe somewhat romanticize a little bit. And also, I think, to be honest, especially as a Quakes fan, I see this as a competition that it is a tournament generally that we have a chance of winning, especially if not all MLS teams are participating in that tournament. On the other hand, I do think that Leagues Cup, you feel that it's a bigger game. It's against bigger teams. Like you said, the turnout is bigger. It's impossible to ignore the financial incentive to me as a fan the Earthquakes. And if you're wishing the best for your team, you know that competing in tournaments where the payout is better is important. And doing well in those tournaments is really important. In terms of the spectacle, I like Leagues Cup more. But I think that if I could choose, I could probably say I would like to retain both tournaments, honestly.
It's a very diplomatic response. Mine is not. I have a strong preference for Leagues Cup, and that was formed last season. If you had asked me the same question a year ago, I would have said, yeah, I do like the Open Cup. But at this point, it just so many false promises, so much disappointment. It just feels like there's nothing to play for. And as a Quakes fan, I just know that it's going to be disappointment. And we travel all over. We go to all the games. And Quakes can be playing like some totally meaningless friendly game, and we'd still want to go to that, and we'd still want to win that. But with Open Cup, yeah, I mean, it's the same narrative. It's a new coach comes in, they make the promise that they're going to take this competition seriously. They don't. Then we're chasing a lead. We lose the game because we can't just win it in the last 15 minutes by throwing on all of our attacking power. And then they come back the next season. They tell us, oh, I've learned from my mistakes. We get our hopes up again. And they again rotate players and lose again. And I don't like that dynamic where we play against USL teams. We set up this David versus Goliath scenario where we're expected to win because we are the MLS team, but then we don't take it seriously. And then we run the risk of humiliating ourselves. And then we get laughed at because it's, oh, this USL team that doesn't even make USL playoffs beat you. Or, wow, you really struggled against Oakland Roots. And I just don't like that dynamic. I don't think it favors us well, because then you get all the haters on the Quakes of saying, oh, they can't compete, they can't do this. Why am I going to support that team? I don't think setting ourselves up for failure is a good look for the club, and that's how I perceive Open Cup at this point. And maybe Bruce Arena will change that. I doubt it. I think it's pretty clear that MLS teams favor MLS extremely heavily, and I think that is the correct choice. I mean, we saw this last year. We were in probably the worst hole we've ever been in at the start of a season, and we could have just rotated against Orlando and taken Open Cup seriously and played all of our best players, but we decided to rotate against Sacramento, and then we lose to Orlando, which is an Eastern Conference team. So there's really it's not a big deal to lose to an Eastern Conference team the way it is to a Western Conference team because of MLS's like playoff structure. And I just don't see a scenario where we ever take this competition seriously, and for that reason, like I'm just mentally checked out. And then you put in all of the financial incentives, and comparing these two tournaments in terms of payout, it is an order of magnitude difference. And everyone keeps saying, why doesn't Fisher sign this player or that player, like spend more money? First of all, we do spend more money, but we need to generate the money to be spending the money. And playing an Open Cup, even if we win the entire Open Cup, really doesn't compare to just being able to participate in Leagues Cup.
I agree with what you're saying. However, and I do also share that sentiment of, it is embarrassing the past 3 years of Open Cup. But I also do think that those games theoretically could have gone differently. And I think if they had, our perspectives would be different. And I do think that in the future, there is all the possibility that those kind of results don't happen again. I mean, even the Sacramento game went to overtime, right? The Monterrey game we lost because of a freak back pass by Rodriguez. I do think a Open Cup semifinal that would probably be up against, probably an MLS team would feel high stakes because we're pretty close. It's one game away. Once we start getting 2 or 1 game away from a final, the stakes will start to feel higher.
Yeah, but that's a hypothetical that like we make it that far, and what I'm saying is that
I think that that's possible though, and I think with Leagues Cup, it's definitely a hell of a lot more possible than the prospect of making it that far in Leagues Cup. Even if the match from match to match is more exciting, I think overall in terms of our prospects in the tournament generally, I think Open Cup there is actually something to win.
Yes, if we got to that position, I agree that would be a lot more of an exciting and high stakes game, but we still have to get there. And my impression is that the Quakes as an organization don't take the tournament seriously enough to get to that point, because MLS games are just a priority, and we can't play 3 games in 8 days and play all of our best players. And now there's this extra incentive to playing well in MLS that even if you don't make the playoffs, you can still qualify to Leagues Cup for the next year. So that just puts even greater importance on MLS.
But I still think that those matches against Monterrey and SAC could have gone in our favor. They didn't, but they could have. It's not like we were absolutely played out the park by Sacramento or Monterrey. And, the Sacramento game was freakish. the way, 2 goals in rapid fire. But yeah, you're right. A lot of things have to go right in Open Cup for it to feel worthwhile. Whereas Leagues Cup, just the group stage, like the excitement is there right off the bat. I still think that for me personally, I can't have, I still kind of like hold out hope, I guess, for Open Cup just because of the fact that, on paper, the Earthquakes have a good chance in that tournament that we don't have in Leagues Cup.
I'm sure once the Open Cup games actually roll around, I'll be a lot more excited about it. But right now, it's just really disappointing for me that we're not going to be playing in the Leagues Cup. Anyways, I think one of the things that we've been going back and forth on in this is the financials. And I think that there's like this vague notion that Leagues Cup just prints more money for teams, but I do want to explore that a little bit just so people are aware of how big the difference is. US Open Cup, it's very transparent. The way it works is if you win it, you go to the CONCACAF Champions Cup, you get direct qualification, and then in terms of prize money, you get $300,000 for winning it, and then the runner-up gets $100,000. Then for Leagues Cup, it's not as transparent, but I was cross-referencing a couple sources, and it seems like the consensus is that if you win Leagues Cup, the winner gets $2 million for that. It's a 1.3 million first place prize, plus for every knockout game that you play in, you get 100,000 and then an additional 50,000 for winning it. So if you add all that up, it should be around 2 million. The attendance numbers alone and, filling Levi's, you can assume that the Quakes made a lot more than just the $300,000 than they would have made for winning the US Open Cup. So it is a significant amount of money that we're leaving on the table.
That is crazy. The fact that, if that's how it was last season, we might have made that money. I mean, with the attendance, we definitely did.
We had the knockout game that we beat Necaxa in, so if these numbers are true, that would be in $150,000 in prize money, plus a appearance against LAFC, so that would be a total of $250,000. That's only $50,000 shy,
right?
Compared
that was
to like
kind of
winning
the point
the
I was
Open
trying
Cup.
to make.
And that's not including any of the attendance numbers and all that money that was generated.
Financially, yeah, you can't compare the two. It's and that's why Garber is pushing so hard for Leagues Cup.
Yeah, which I guess that does pose the question of like, why do we have to choose between either Leagues Cup or Open Cup? I think it comes down to MLS did try to just put us all into Leagues Cup last year, and then U.S. Soccer Federation said, no, hold up, you can't do that, and forced MLS to play some of the teams in Open Cup. That's why we played in it last year. It was a total of 8 MLS teams. Having this split of like 16 teams in Open Cup and 16 in Leagues Cup is the probably like the happy middle grounds that they've reached between MLS and USSF.
Right. Like we have, of course, being Quakes fans, an MLS perspective. And I imagine what Leagues Cup is to MLS teams is probably how USL teams and, going further down the pyramid teams feel about Open Cup.
But
so,
as a Quakesaholic,
you're right, yeah.
As a Quakesaholic,
right.
problem.
So Quakesaholic hat on, yeah, like, okay, like what are we really getting out of humiliated by Monterey and seeing them just clown us on their metal bleachers? Not much. But I see why the United States Soccer Federation is, SAC needs those games and Monterey needs those games, right, for them. And I see where United States Soccer Federation is coming from as well, trying to represent all U.S. soccer teams.
If the money disparity wasn't enough to upset you, Luis has one more finding for you.
So as some of you might know, I go to university in San Diego, so I've seen Irving Lozano's face. I see him probably 5 days a week on billboards and such. So, was thinking, and I was like, yeah, there's no way Garber didn't somehow find a way to weasel San Diego into Leagues Cup. And of course, as you might imagine, he did find a way. Apparently, per MLS's new North American Cup qualification criteria, incoming MLS expansion club San Diego FC will replace Vancouver Whitecaps FC for Leagues Cup 2025. So if you think, I'm pretty pissed off, right, about not playing Leagues Cup, as I know you are as well. But okay, if there's a criteria, all right, we got Spoon, -50 goal difference, whatever. Imagine being the Whitecaps, where you see that and you made it, but you just got royal decree, you're not playing. Sorry, new kid at school is a lot cooler than you, and also pretty seems to have a lot of money that comes with him too. So sorry, he's gonna take your spot. And
So
it's just
stupid.
like, to kind of go back to the thing I was saying earlier about, you kind of see like the money talk in Leagues Cup, which kind of makes it feel like a little bit, like at first, you're kind of like on paper, it's a little bit like icky. This feels like really icky.
Hmm.
I don't know. It just rubbed me the wrong way.
I do see that, and I do see the money argument of like it just seems really slimy. But despite that, I still prefer Leagues Cup because while U.S. Open Cup is this very historically important tournament, the fact that the Quakes have not taken it seriously and they have taken Leagues Cup seriously is what makes me sway towards Leagues Cup. But
Right.
you're totally
And
right.
yeah,
Like
like
this is unfair. Like it's straight up unfair. I feel so bad for Vancouver Whitecaps fans, but I mean it's MLS. You got to play by the rules.
right, yeah, and the rules,
Bend it like Beckham.
change like the wind. So yeah, I bet it'll be fun. Maybe San Diego, Irving Lozano, maybe they'll do well. I hope they don't. But it's exciting if you're a San Diego fan. I've already seen guys with bumper stickers of San Diego FC with the shower drain or whatever. Seen that a few times. But so people already got kits before they even played a game. So I bet for them it's cool. I know Snapdragon is gonna be sold out. I won't be there, but I bet it will be full. Definitely sucks to be a Whitecaps fan reading that.
It is what it is. MLS just does these royal decrees, and like, what can you do? It's just not the way the league is run. But in any case, when the Open Cup comes around, I'll have warmed up to this, supporting the Quakes like always. We're the Quakesaholics. Thanks for watching the video, and catch you next time.
Thank you.